Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Epic Marvel Podcast YouTube live stream for Tuesday, January 20th. We are already approaching the end of the month. Time flies too quickly these days, doesn't it? Okay, so let me see here. We've got a few people in the chat already. Good to see you, Matt. Glad to catch this live and interested to see what you're unboxing. I've got a few books to unbox today. Super Job is here. He says, I missed yesterday, but it was heartening to see you take over my role in pointing out the mind control and laughing about it. As soon as you said it, you can't unsee it. It's just like, why does Claremont always go to mind control for all of these things? Well, yeah, didn't notice it until now. Now I have to mention it every single time. So that's going to make a lot of the reading fun. Um, and then Logan, of course, nice to see you. And James. Hey, Phil's here. Nice to see you in the chat. I'm glad to see you. I hope all is well with you. Axel Plate, hello. James, hello. Richard, hello. Uh, Nothing to be sorry about. It's actually pretty amusing, and it's a good insight. Like that's the kind of thing that we need to talk about in these kind of things. It's like if it's a common theme, then why are we not bringing it up? Okay, before we start with the unboxing, there are a few things that there's something I want to show you. So last week I showed a X-Men board game, and I wanted to show you a different X-Men board game that I already had. I've had this one. Actually, my brother gave this one to me as well a while back. And what's going on with my hair here? Um, they This is by the same company, Pressman, and it's around the same time. As you can see, the characters are all kind of the Jim Lee era X-Men, and there was supposed to be a free comic inside this one as well, the X-Men Survival Guide to the Mansion, abridged version, but it's not in here. It was missing because it's a very used version of this game. Um, this one is not nearly as good as the other game that I showed off last time. This one's called um, Under Siege, Xavier's Institute Under Siege, and this this one's called the X-Men Alert Adventure Game. So that one's better. But let's take a look inside this one as well, because there is some cool stuff. The game is a lot more complicated, just to figure out, and it's got a long board like this, where you have to go through different areas of the X Mansion. So we have this. Well, let's start at the top here. The attic, and the second floor, the ground floor, the basement, the first sub basement, and the second sub basement. And so you can see like the danger room is down here, um, some dormitories, gym. It doesn't say exactly where. Oh yeah, Cerebro is down here as well. Where did Cerebro go? There's Cerebro backup. Can't remember. But anyway, yeah, it's got some cool things here. It names some of the names. Like this is Xavier's room, X-Men, the men's dormitory and the women's dormitory, and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of neat. It's got. I showed off these figures last time, but it's got a lot of the same figures. They obviously wanted to use these guys again, and for like they've got the molds made already, so that's Cable. But there are a few different ones. For instance, this set has Maverick. Can't really see it very well, unfortunately. Oh, there you go. Maverick. The other set didn't have that. Who else is different? Bishop. The other set, I don't think had a bishop in it. And Longshot. But anyway, so you could combine all these characters if you want to play with some of them in the other board game, I guess. Um, this one doesn't have nearly the same sort of cool. Oh, look at that! Actually, how did I not notice this? It does have the comic in here, the Survival Guide to the Mansion. I believe, this is included in the Bishop's Crossing Epic Collection. So, but there you go. It was hiding underneath the instruction booklet. It's got a whole bunch of different little chits that that you use here for the game, and then it has all of these cards that are very similar to the ones in the other game as well. So they kind of repurpose a lot of the same things in order to make this game. It's not as unique as you would think, but the gameplay on the other one is a lot more fun than this one. This one's more complicated. And it doesn't have any cool cards like the other one does. This one is a little bit more boring in that sense. So anyway, there you go. Um, just got to get them off my desk now so I can have room for the books. Everything's falling out of place. Feast, Bishop, Banshee. Anyway, I'll deal with this later. Okay. How about all of you? Do any of you have um do any of you have any comic related board games? I'd love to know it. I'd love to know. Is your brother a big comic nerd too, or is he no longer into them? Oh, he is a big comic nerd. He, in fact, he still has a saver box that he buys a lot of single issues still, a lot of Marvel, DC. He was big into the Power Rangers and stuff. Um, and you can hear how big of a nerd he is because he is the co-host on some of my podcast episodes. So some of the more interesting ones, I think, because he brings a lot of just random information to the table when we do podcasts together. So listen to the Fantastic Four episodes, and you'll hear that he did the Fantastic Four ones with me, and he did the Ant-Man episode and the Moon Knight episodes. So yeah, check those ones out. He's a huge nerd. Oh, you have a Conan board game. That's pretty cool. Is it a modern one or an old one? I think yeah, I just checked in the survival guide to the mansion is in the Fatal Attractions epic. That's what it is. Thanks, James. Appreciate you checking that. I couldn't remember exactly which volume it was in, but it was around there. Okay, so I think we'll save the epics for last. So let's go with the a DC Finest. It feels like so long since we got a DC Finest because we had two. Oh, Doom Patrol. Um, his name is Eric. He's my younger brother, just a couple of years. So yeah, he's there on the podcast. Check him out. He doesn't have his own website or anything like that. He's not into that side of the nerd things, but he is a high school math teacher, so he's that kind of nerdy. Um, we got DC Finest, a couple of them early December, only two in December, and then there was nothing for the end of December, and then nothing for the early January. So it's been almost a month since the last DC Finest book. So it's nice to have another one in hand. That looks very familiar. Is that the same corner box as it was before? Here's Doom Patrol. Couple of different logo changes on these guys right here because we're covering a few different eras in this book. Let me see here. We have 1966 to 1968, and then 1973, and then 1977 through 79. And what does that cover? Doom Patrol 103 to 121, Showcase 94 to 96, and stories from Superman Family 191 to 193. Let's see here. Lauded as one of the greatest series of time, witnessed the historic ending to Arnold Drake and Bruno Premiani's landmark Doom Patrol series. Wow, so this is the very end. That's why it's called the death of the Doom Patrol, I guess, because they die. Spoiler alert, but obviously they come back because there's more content in this book than just the end of this run. I love the DC covers when they had this little checker pattern on it. I think they just had a really nice style to them. There's Changeling or Beast Boy. He's in these stories as well. He joined the I can't even I can't remember now if he joined or not at the end, but he was in the few stories at the very end of the previous volume, and so now he gets to show up a few more times. That's good. Lots of classic looking artwork. There's a gorilla right there. Look at that. That's not a real surprise because one of the Doom Patrol's main villains is a gorilla. Uh, so we're gonna catch up with gorillas a lot probably in this volume here. The first one was great. It was weird. They did odd things, and it was just kind of an offbeat book, and very different from the other offerings that DC had during the day. So it was a pleasure to read that first volume. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this one and where the Doom Patrol moves into in the future. As I said before, I'm a newbie to DC. I've been a lifelong Marvel fan. Never really dipped my toe into the various eras of DC other than kind of the major stories. And so Doom Patrol is unfamiliar with me to me. Although I did like the TV series, the season one, never watched past that. So very cool. Lots of stuff here. Let's flip ahead to see um, some of the more recent stuff here. Oh man, look at all those gorillas. Look at that. There's just so many of them. Skipping ahead. Doom Patrol 117. What is the last one here? 121. So that's actually the newer content is going to be pretty far at the back of the book here. These are some of the last issues of the 60s series. Uh, Looks like they're fighting some aliens. They do fight a lot of aliens. And there's the cover. These big panels. That's very different. You can probably trace the evolution of the craft as you go through here. The beginning of the book, you've got, 5 or 6 panels per page, and then by the end here, looks like we're getting a lot more open space with the panel layouts. And that's just kind of the nature of how comics were progressing. A lot of it thanks to people like Neil Adams who were doing that kind of thing in their storytelling. Okay, let's see here. And here is the new Doom Patrol. A bunch of faces and characters that I don't recognize. Um, except for Robot Man, of course. He looks a little bit different, but that's Robot Man. Plus Tempest, Celsius, and Negative Woman. Wow. So that's kind of cool. It's going to be neat to explore a new team by the end of this book here. And then once you get a little bit past there, some more showcase. Artwork looks great. This is oh, Joe Staton. Yeah, he's great. Joe Staton's great. There's actually I read on Facebook it was his birthday yesterday. Um, nice timing there. Joe Staton was on the Dick Tracy comic strip more recently until he kind of retired from that. Um, great artist. He's been solid all through the years. And then some Superman family. Of course, they just had some of the backup stories in Superman family, I believe. So oh no, that's Supergirl. So the guest star in the Supergirl backups in Superman family. Pretty cool. Look at that action. Isn't that great? Okay. So what are some of you people saying in the comments here? James has a Marvel Champions card game. That's cool. I haven't seen that before. Oh wow, actually you got 3 epics today. Spider-Man, X-Men, and Rom. That's really good stuff there. I hope you can find some more time to read because some of those are pretty wordy. Rom is a very wordy book. I was surprised at how much dialogue is there. I got my pre-ordered for November Spider-Girl Modern Epic, and today, what, 2 months late? Yeah, a lot of disruptions just in general with shipping out comics. I think with the collapse of Diamond, it's a little bit different. What would be the next Library of American comic books? The website hasn't been updated in the catalog for a long time. Yeah, that's very true. It hasn't been updated. We are starting softcover versions of Dick Tracy and softcover versions of the Amazing Spider-Man. We don't have any like unique books that we haven't done before. We're just kind of reissuing old stuff in new format. But yeah, that's a good reminder that we should probably update that website. Super Job says gorillas are like DC's mind control. I'm glad they included that 70s stuff. I believe that means they can fit the entire pre-Morrison 80s stuff in one volume. Very cool. That would be really neat stuff. I like the 80s, DC in the 80s from what I've read, so that should be really good. What's the story with DC and gorillas again? The editor in chief thought comics sold more if they had a gorilla in them or something. That's right. Phil has your answer. He says they published an issue of Strange Adventures with a gorilla on the cover and sales spiked, so they just kept on doing it. I don't know if they'll do a finest of Morrison and Pollock, because that's technically Vertigo, right? The Grant Morrison run of Doom Patrol. I don't know. They haven't shown whether or not they're going to put Vertigo stuff into DC Finest, so I guess we'll have to just wait and see. One of the first English language floppies I bought was the first issue of Rachel Pollack's Doom Patrol run. I've loved them ever since. That's pretty cool. So by that logic, King Kong comics should have been a huge hit. Maybe they were. I don't know. Oh yeah, some Silver Age Adam Strange would be nice. That would be very cool. Wow, a lot of great comments here, everybody. 80s Doom Patrol before Morrison had Eric Larson art. Oh wow. Not just DC, hence the used car signs with them. And yeah, and like Planet of the Apes, and like, that series went on forever. So many movies. People did love gorillas back in the day, didn't they? Why are they not as popular now as they were before? I don't get it. Okay, shall we take a look at some Epic collections? There's two in this package right here. Oh, I need it again. Whoops. There's some tape down this side. Looking at these for the first time. I want to thank Marvel for sending us these advanced copies of these books here for us to take a look at. Daredevil Modern Era Epic Collection, Volume 5, The Murdoch Papers. This is the last volume of the Brian Michael Bendis run of Daredevil. We've had all of the other volumes, and in fact, the last Daredevil release, they skipped ahead over to volume 6. And I wasn't sure exactly why they did that because they've been doing them on all in order before that, but epics can be out of order, so they definitely are. So we're looping back to fill that little hole here, and I've been putting off reading volume 6 because I wanted to read volume 5 first, and so I'm glad that it is finally here. There's the back cover. Both of the front and the back are drawn by Alex Malev, who is the artist through this book here. I think the whole thing looks like it's the whole thing. He's got a very dark and gritty style, and I think it suits the tone that they're trying to go with. It's very not classic type of comic book. This is definitely the modern era, and I'm trying to get some of that glare off. Um, Employing new just techniques that standard superhero comics hadn't really used, um, and it looks really nice. The coloring is all computer coloring, but it's subdued, It's not in your face, and they go for more of an atmospheric mood for a lot of this kind of stuff. It's very different. Captain America, like Ed Brubaker's Captain America was, I think, coming out around this time as well. What year is this? 2004 to 2006. Yeah, around this time. And that computer coloring is very different because it's trying to render things more realistically to match the realistic style of Steve Epting. And and so it renders it a lot really, really dark. And so Alex Malev's art is very dark, but the coloring helps keep it readable, which is really nice as well. Very cool covers, experimental covers there as well. I love this series so far. The first three volumes have been excellent, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it all wraps up. A lot of people like to hate on Brian Michael Bendis, but I actually think he's great. I have enjoyed everything that I've read of his. Ultimate Spider-Man, all the Ultimate stuff, um, Alias, New Avengers, Runaway. No, no, Ryan Runaways is Brian K. Vaughan, but yeah, no, it's it's just great. So I'm really looking forward to this. A lot of this artwork appears in the let me see, the the Marvel art of Alex Malev. Actually, not a lot of it because his style has changed quite a bit. He's a straight up painter now and just does covers. He doesn't do interiors anymore, and so um, his artwork is very much more realistic in that sense. He doesn't and it looks beautiful. And so the art book that we did with him a little recently, a couple years ago now, has some of the stuff as an example of his artwork back in the day, but for the most part, it's more of his newer content. This and Alias is my favorite of his work because it's closest to his indie noir look. Yeah, those early books like Jinx and Goldfish that he did are pretty cool. They're a lot of fun. Um, oh, in the 70s, they published a one shot titled Superheroes versus Super Gorillas, an all reprint issue collecting all of the gorilla issues. That's awesome. Morrison's Doom Patrol does predate the Vertigo label, but all the reprints of that run have the Vertigo or Black Label brands. There are several series like that, including Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. Yeah, right. Okay. I would imagine that they would have to include, if they're going to do a Swamp Thing line, they would have to include that Alan Moore series. They can't really get around it. I mean, I guess they technically could, but why would they? Um, a lot of people. Omar has a name. Yeah, he's one of them. One, one of those haters. I don't know what his beef is about Brian Michael Bendis. I like that guy. I just read King of Hell's Kitchen, and I think it might be the best Daredevil run ever. Wow, that's the volume that's right before this. It is a really good one. The stakes just kind of keep on getting ramped and ramped and ramped, um, and and then this one is the grand finale. So should be good. Looking forward to reading it. Yeah, Swamp Thing is a series that I've actually tried. I've started it a few times, and there's just um, I sometimes I find Alan Moore a bit hard to just follow and read. So it's like um, some of his books are great, and some of them I just can't stand. And Swamp Thing fits right in the middle there. I have to be in the right mood to read a whole lot of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. So I've never finished the series. I started it a few times. People tend to hate on later Bendis. His early stuff is really great. Okay, later stuff like I know that people don't like his X-Men. I've never read his X-Men, so I can't say for sure. Uh, I still think I prefer the Frank Miller run over this. Like I said, it's tough. Frank Miller is really, really good. That whole Born Again era and before that is excellent. Okay, here's the other book we're talking about. It's the Micronauts, Volume 4, and it's called The Long and Winding Road. This one is a thin one. It's quite thin. And I'm pretty sure it's because um, it has Micronauts 51 to 59. One of these issues is double-sized, but the rest of them I think are just regular size. So it's a very thin book. Let's see, the page count goes to about 330 pages. And we know from the well, we speculate from the omnibus releases that they were going to include X-Men versus Micronauts, but then at the last minute they had to pull it. And we know that because the solicit, when we saw an early version of the cover of the last Micronauts omnibus, it had Chris Claremont's name on it. That he only wrote the X-Men versus Micronauts series, miniseries. He didn't do any of the regular series, so it was intended to be included. Then it got pulled. So the last omnibus is about 4 issues shorter than all of the other omnibuses. Um, and this one is the same deal. This one is about 4 issues shorter than all of the other volumes of Micronauts that we've had so far because they were probably planning on putting it in here. Now, like a lot of time has passed since the Omnis. Why couldn't they remap them or reshuffle them to make them more even or whatever? I don't know. But anyway, that is the case. Is that the slimmest epic ever? I've never seen one that small. Well, um, whoops. It is thin. It's not the thinnest. The thinnest goes to the Planet of the Apes epic collection. That one is like literally half the size of this. And both of the Miss Marvel epics and both of the um, Morbius epic collections they're maybe a little bit thicker than this, but not by much. Also, the Conan original Marvel Years epic collections are this thin as well. So there's a lot of them that are this thin. They just not as many as you want. So shall we take a look inside? There they are writing on some bats. This is 1983 to 1984. Someone was asking for the price. It has a $43 price tag on the back of it. 42.99. And that's in contrast to this Daredevil epic, which is 49.99. And that's in contrast to the DC Finest, which is 39.99 for like double the, it's a few dollars cheaper for half of the price. Or yeah, well, not half the price, for double the page length. Um, I know Marvel probably doesn't want me comparing DC Finest to these books that they just sent me. So sorry, Marvel. Oh, here's a good one. It's Micronauts. Of course it's going to be smaller. That's great. Planet of the Apes has gorillas that virtually doubles the page count. That's true. It makes it well worth the read because there's so many gorillas in that book. Planning to make an X-Men versus Micronaut custom hardcover to add to these. That's a good idea. Um, I just sold my Micronauts series. I had all of the original single issues, and I thought that I just didn't need them anymore since I have the Epic collections. Um, since I never go into the bags and boards because it's just a hassle, and this is nice. I can pull off my shelf and read it. So I got rid of that, but I didn't get rid of the X-Men Micronauts miniseries. I held on to that one for obvious reasons. Okay, let's take a look inside Micronauts Volume 4, The Long and Winding Road. This is Bill Mantlo was the mastermind behind this title here, with Butch Guice as the main artist. Looks like Kelly Jones does a little bit, and Peter Gillis does a little bit. Um, maybe they do the last issue. I don't remember. Peter Gillis and Kelly Jones. Yeah, so Mantlo doesn't quite make it to the end here. I don't know exactly why. Um, I don't know if does that coincide with the accident he was in? I'm not sure. I don't remember when that was. But here we go. There's the Micronauts. Lots of action. This book has a lot of action, and I think because they were promoting a toy line, they wanted to make it as action-packed as possible to show off what fun it is to play with the toys, and so they sure did that. However, by this point, I don't even know if the Micronauts toys were still a thing. It could be that but because I think the comic, this and ROM both outlived the popularity of the toys themselves. Butch Guice and Kelly Jones. Yeah, this is very cool. Oh, I love these comments. You guys are hilarious. It will still be bigger than a Night Nurse epic collection. The only reason the Ant-Man epics aren't small is because they double as giant size X-Men's. Matlow's accident was in 1992. Okay, so that doesn't coincide with this. This is 1984, almost a decade before. So he just must have moved on to something else. Croyer and Bug. Murder One. A little next issue thing. That's cool. There's some tremendous artists on this book over the years. Of course, at the beginning, Michael Golden really set the stage and set the tone as he did those first dozen issues or so. Um, but Butch Guy seeing this work here, it reminds me a lot of the kind of stuff that Michael Golden was doing in those early issues, and it's just really quite fantastic. This is an interesting group of characters because they all are from different planets and such, and they all have to band together. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy in that sense, but they're from different, sorry, not different planets. They're all from the microverse. They're just from different areas of the microverse, which have a very different terrain, and like the different alien races live in different pockets of the microverse, and so they all kind of meet up and have to take down this bad guy who's definitely a knockoff of Darth Vader. His name is Baron Karza, and he has a horse body that he can swap out for a human body. There, this is the issue that's called The Long and Winding Road. The the restoration on all of these books has been top notch. They did a very, very good job when they were restoring it for the omnibus, and so I'm always impressed looking through these issues. Colors are your normal, very saturated, 100% red, 100% yellow kind of a look, which some people like Jose Villarrubia does not like at all. And that's a personal preference. I think it's fine. I have nothing wrong. I have no problem with it. I think it looks nice, but to each their own. And that takes us to the conclusion of Micronauts' first series. And I think is the very next month, or maybe it's a couple months after they launched Micronauts: The Lost Voyages, and there's Bill Mantlo right there. And so the next volume, volume 5, will be the last Micronauts volume in the series, and it contains the entirety of that final, like the Lost Voyages series. Lots of art, unused panels, original artwork. That's nice. Some a nice art piece there. There we go, and then we get a ROM advertisement in the back. Where do you put these in your on your bookshelf? Do you classify them with the other classic era classic era epic collections, even though they have like different fonts on here, and obviously they're not looping them in with the superhero stuff because they don't put the list on the back. They should put an X-Men versus Micronauts ad in the last volume just to rub salt in the wounds. Oh man, brutal. Hi, Neptonic says, "Hi Curtis, did you get your hands on Volume 6 of the Venom epics? With Volume 8 this year, we are only missing Volume 3 with Maximum Carnage and hopefully Venom versus Rune one shot, otherwise it won't be collected." I hate to break it to you, but it's very unlikely that the Venom versus Rune one shot will be included because Rune is a character that is owned by Malibu Comics. And yes, I do know that technically Marvel owns Malibu, but they have kept all that stuff locked up in a vault, and I don't think that it's going to come out anytime soon. So we will probably not see Venom versus Rune in Venom Epic Collection Volume 3, but we will see the only remaining Venom miniseries left. Which one is it called? I think it's called Funeral Pyre. That one will be in that one along with the Maximum Carnage story. So yeah, just one more volume left to complete the Venom series there. Sorry, no Prime. Malibu is off limits. Curtis, thank you for always doing these unboxings and flip throughs. It's always a great time. The early look, the info, the context, the conversation, just a great time every time. Thanks. Well, I appreciate the comments, Matt. I love that you're here in the chat participating in it all too. Makes I could just be blathering for an hour, but it's way more fun to interact with people. So I'm glad that you make the time to be here as well. They could still have a separate modern line. It wouldn't make as much sense for a line on the back as we are still in the modern age now and is ever expanding. Yeah, that's true. New Voyages has 20 issues plus a Secret Wars 2 crossover. So the volume that's coming out is only going to have the New Voyages issues. I don't know if is the Secret Wars crossover one of those New Voyages issues. I think maybe. I don't know. I prefer WM only because I never got to finish the series before it got canceled. I want to have all the series read before I left. I'm not sure what you're having a conversation with somebody in the chat here, so I'm not exactly sure what that's referencing here. Lance is here. Good evening, everyone. Looking to pick up Doom Patrol and then Golden Age Batman. Yeah, so the second volume of Golden Age Batman is coming out. Is it the second volume, or do we already have the first one? I can't even remember anymore. It's the first volume, right? The first volume of Golden Age Batman's coming out next week, I think. Hi, Curtis. Are there any new lines in the next Epic announcements? I guess I should mention that we are going to be doing some more Epic announcements coming up at the beginning of February. I believe that February the 5th. Is that the day? Thursday, February 5th, we will be revealing all of the Epic collections in November and December. Typically, we would also include January, but it seems that Marvel is changing the way that they are putting their catalogs together to be more in line with Penguin Random House, I believe. And so they are going to go from January to December rather than February to January, which was always kind of a little weird. I'm not exactly sure why they did that to begin with. And I think it might have something to do with the solicitations always coming in, like including the back half of one month and the beginning part of another month. So, but now they're switching it up. So we only have 2 months to announce, November and December. And let's see if I can give you a couple of little things here. A couple little teases. Um, I hope you can't read the reflections in my glasses. That would be bad. So these 2 months I'm really looking forward to because there are some great books, some stuff that a lot of people have been asking for, and way more exciting than the previous announcements. We are going to be finishing off a couple of lines. We're going to be filling in some gaps. Um, we're going to be continuing some series. Let's see here. So in November we have one, two, three, four, five, six. We have 6 books in November, and one, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8 books in December, and none of them are reprints. Unfortunately, for those who are looking for reprints, but we're going to see a couple of lines finished. We're going to see a couple of unexpected. Hmm, actually, I don't know if I would call them unexpected, but very welcome. I don't know. There's not much I can tease without giving away a whole lot. So that might be all I'm going to say. Um, but it's going to be good. I think everyone's going to be really happy with a number of the releases that they are going to be that we're going to be announcing on the 5th of February. Sorry, no more epic reprints for 2026. I don't know why they're not giving us reprints. They just don't seem to want to go for it. So we're just getting a few, just a couple, um, which is too bad. I agree. I was suggesting a James Rhodes War Machine epic line. Ah, okay, that's what you were talking about earlier. Yeah, that would be good. There is plenty of material for a War Machine epic collection, not just his main series from the 90s, but he's had a bunch of other little things over the years. Let's get them all collected all in one place. This year is reasonably packed with Spidey and X-Men epics. I'm good. Well, the year's not over, and we're going to be seeing some more Spidey related stuff and X-Men related stuff in November and December as well. Beast could make a fun epic with him as an X-Men, X-Factor, Avengers, Defenders, the Sword and solo stories. Ugh. Yeah, he's been around, that's for sure. Marvel mind controlled gorilla epic collection confirmed. Oh yeah, Elf. Wouldn't that be the day? I can guarantee right now that we will not be seeing an epic collection coming from Marvel, at least in 2026. I cannot confirm any other publishers picking up the Elf license. Before you go, Curtis, how are you coming along with The Crossing? Well, I finished it. I read um so let me see here. For those of you who don't know, when the Avengers Time Slide Epic Collection came out a couple months ago, I said, this is my time to read The Crossing, because I didn't read it when the Iron Man epic came out. And then the second half of The Crossing was in the Iron Man epic called The Age of Innocence, which leads into Onslaught and doubles as the last Iron Man series or volume before Heroes Reborn. And the Avengers one, Timeslide, is the last Avengers volume before Heroes Reborn as well. And so I was like, okay, I'll just read those 3 books together, because then I can read The Crossing and get everything I need. The Avengers book doesn't have the whole Crossing story in it. It just has the Avengers issues. So I knew I had to read the Iron Man one to get the full story, which also includes a bunch of issues from Forceworks and a bunch of issues from War Machine. And then I also know that right after The Crossing is a little story called First Sign, which crosses over with Iron Man, Avengers, and Thor and Captain America. And those chapters are not in those epic collections. They didn't include the full story because those characters don't show up until their respective chapters. So I was like, okay, well, I may as well pull off the Captain America Man Without a Country volume and the Thor World Engine volume, which are those final volumes before Heroes Reborn as well, and just read all of them together. And then I was flipping through and I noticed that one of the Avengers issues has a text recap at the beginning of it that says, oh, hey, you may want to read some issues of the Hulk to get up to date with what's going on here. So I pulled off the Hulk Ghosts of the Future. And so those are the books That's 6 epic collections. I decided to read all at the same time, and so I went month by month. All of the January issues I read together, then all the February issues, and so on and so forth until I got through the entire thing, all the way up to Onslaught and the end of those volumes. And let me tell you, it was actually kind of fun. The A lot of people have a lot of hate for this era of Avengers in general or comics, Marvel comics in general, but I actually think that there's a lot of good stuff, and part of it is that I was reading all of the issues like together. So Avengers is by far the worst book out of all of them. It was actually kind of terrible. But interspersed with some of the really good stuff like Man Without a Country and World Engine, made it that it was actually fine to go through because it's just like, oh, I just got to get through this issue and then I'm on to the good stuff again. Uh, Even Teen Iron Man was actually not that bad. I thought it had a good concept, and they just got derailed by Onslaught and stuff, and they didn't really have time to explore it properly, but it was kind of good. Um, so the crossing itself, the whole story is about 50% good. It starts off really strong, a great kind of a murder mystery. People are questioning loyalties and stuff, and it actually is really, really great. I love the first half of it, and then Kang shows up, and as soon as Kang shows up, all of a sudden we're into a completely different type of story, and it's like now we're shoehorning a time travel thing, and Kang has been working behind the scenes influencing people for years, and it's like, what is going on here? This is not good stuff. It ends terribly, but the first half is really great, and so that's unfortunate. um all of Captain America, Man Without a Country, that Mark Waid run is really fantastic, and World Engine is also a really good story that's quite strong. One of my favorite issues that I read out of those 6 volumes is, um, is the last issue of Thor, where he just has a kind of a conversation with Red Norvell before he goes off to fight Onslaught, and it's just really, really well written. It's super good. I loved it. So let's see here. What does some of you say about the crossing? Respect to you, my friend, for reading the whole crossing storyline. You're a trooper. You finished the crossing and still want to read more comics afterwards. Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, got to get the bad taste out of your mouth somehow, right? Uh, I would say that I've read worse comics, like '90s Daredevil with what's that story? The Chichester story, is that's worse. I didn't like that. Doctor Strange in the '90s is not good. The Blade book has some pretty horrendous stuff in it. So compared to that, these other titles are actually doing pretty good. Um, I will say though that the Avengers Epic Collection time slide is it makes no sense because you're only getting a quarter of the story. You're not getting any of the stuff that's going on, and the Avengers actually are not the main characters of the crossing. Most of the actual important action takes place in Forceworks. And so those are the issues you want to read. If you only read a fourth of the story, you read the Forceworks issues. Um, it, it wouldn't be a good reading experience to read that epic collection on its own. So just a fair warning for all of you. Also, like the wasp turns into a human wasp for zero reason whatsoever. It's like they build it up, something happens to her that's like a pivotal moment in the story, and then she has this rebirth where she has that she takes on a more insect-like appearance, and it's like, why does that happen? They never say why. What kind of future stories are we going to tell with that? Nothing whatsoever. And like, does she do anything differently as a human wasp? Nope, not at all. Completely 100% pointless and irrelevant, and I don't know why they did it, but they did, so there you go. Hey, thanks for this super chat. Mr. Tex, appreciate that. I am proud to be part of the Crossing Brotherhood. Even though, I didn't like it all the way through, I'm glad that I read it. I think everybody should. It's uh it's an interesting experience. That's that's for sure. I was wanting Werewolf by Night and Man Thing epics, but I couldn't wait, so I bought the Masterworks at a decent discount. However, I will still double dip and buy the epics if they are released. I hope they are at some point. I remember that David Gabriel, who is in charge of sales at Marvel, said that these ones, when the time came to reprint them again, like bring them back to print, they will be epic collections. So they were complete collections before, but they'll be epic collections next. Oh, this is a good comment. Discovering gems in the maligned 90s Marvel is a big part of my epic collection experience. It's true. It wasn't all bad. There was definitely some bad stuff in there. But then there was also bad stuff in the 70s and there was bad stuff in the 80s. Anybody read Team America? So every era has its bad stuff. And I think that a lot of the thing about the 90s is that there was just a cultural shift in in pop culture in general, it coincides, of course, with Marvel's bankruptcy, but the uh, the influence of manga through the '90s because it was taking things by storm with Dragon Ball and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember um, going to see screenings at the local indie movie theater of just random anime that had just been newly dubbed and nobody had heard of this stuff before, and it was taking people by storm and stuff, and that had a big effect. And there was other things that had a huge effect on just the way comics were done in the 90s, and people who loved the old school stuff were like, this is no longer for me, and that's absolutely fair. Oh, Fall from Grace. Yes, that's what it was called. Fall from Grace, not a good story, and the stuff that came after it was not good either. You're beginning to see why the 90s was the decade taste forgot. Yeah, I mean, again, there is a lot of good stuff in the 90s as well. And I like that was a lot of my main comic reading. So I am not going to say that it's all bad because I enjoyed quite a bit of it. I loved Spider-Man through the 90s, Clone Saga and all. A lot of hate for fridging female Yellow Jacket was getting a lot of love from the Guardians of the Galaxy title, and they brought her here just to kill her, and that ticked people off at the time. Yeah, any death of any character is going to do that. Um, yeah, they didn't bring her back as a human Yellow Jacket like they did for Wasp, though. I don't. Is that better or worse? I don't know. Oh, let's see here. Note the Avengers Volume 3 first annual deals with a heartbroken Iron Man over Yellow Jacket's death, and why he was never arrested for it was explained. So recommended reading that story. Okay. I will get around to that when the Avengers Heroes Reborn epic collection eventually comes out, whenever that will be. I know a lot of people want that because it's a very highly regarded run. Wizard called the new Wasp beautiful and fantastic. Well, I'm gonna have some words with Lars about that one. Lars, formerly of Wizard Magazine. The FF Strange Days epic was great. Yes, I agree. That Tom DeFalco stuff was great. In fact, I read a couple of those issues that lead up to Onslaught as part of my Crossing/Onslaught reading, just because it had some relevant information in there. Untold Tales of Spider-Man was one of my favorite series ever. Really sad we never got the Untold Tales Complete Collection Volume 2. Yeah, they pulled the plug on that, didn't they? Um, it would be nice to see it come as an epic collection or something, but who knows? I actually started reading Mutant Massacre on Marvel Unlimited. Uncanny X-Men 211 actually made me cry. Wow. I'm gonna have to look out for that when I get to that point in our reading club, which today I believe is the 100th day of our Claremont read through X-Men in the Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club. For those of you who are participating, it's been a wild ride. We just read God Loves Man Kills just recently, and yeah, 100 days. Pretty good. Boy, you guys are really chatty in the chat. I bought recently Doctor Strange Epic Triumph and Torment. Man, that was bad, except for the graphic novel of the same name. Yeah, the graphic novel's good. That series in general goes in and out. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. I find it very inconsistent. But yeah, that one was not because that's Roy Thomas, right? And that's not him at his finest work. Um, I would love a Spider-Man Omni that mixed amazing and untold issues in canon order. Wouldn't that be something to have a um, chronological story? And it's not just that. Like, do you remember in the big time era, there's that Alpha series that like takes place in those early days of Spider-Man, and they could put in like the Spider-Man Blue stuff in there, and that would be very, very cool to kind of have an ultimate collection. The only thing is, as soon as Marvel publishes a new story that takes place in that time, then your thing is out of date. Yeah. I almost quit New Mutants after the Team America issue. That's only one issue. I'm glad you kept going because it's good after that. That's pretty early on in New Mutants, right? Everything Team America seems to be terrible. I don't know. Okay, not a fan of Tom DeFalco. You are not on the same wavelength of mine. For me, that run is my favorite Fantastic Four run, DeFalco. I like it better than all of the rest of them. Wow. Okay. What did we talk about today? We talked about Micronauts, Epic Collection Volume 4, The Long and Winding Road, one that is a little bit on the thin side. I'm going in order from thinnest to thickest. So Daredevil, Modern Era Epic Collection Volume 5, The Murdoch Papers, and DC Finest, The Doom Patrol, The Death of the Doom Patrol. 3 great books that will keep me company this week. I hope that all of you will have some time to read as well. See if you can figure out a nice little cozy spot in your house and curl up with a good book. Well, everybody, thank you very much for. Oh, hold on a second. What is it? Ghost Rider crossed over with Team America and the Human Fly, also sadly both missing from the Epics and Omnis. Like in the Team America series, there might be some issues with that one, like not being able to reprint those issues because they're licensed characters or something. I'm not sure. Just got to the first of the Sienkiewicz issues of New Mutants. That man is an artistic genius. Yeah, those issues are amazing, art-wise and also story-wise, and the way they work together. Really, really great. Um, Definitely an artistic genius for sure. Not everybody's cup of tea because it's definitely not your standard comic art, but I like it. How do you know it's me that's not right? It could be actually you that is not correct, right? Super job. Guess we'll never know. Okay, signing off, everybody. Thanks for being here with me on my live stream. Hit the like button, subscribe if you are not subscribed already, and you'll get notifications for all these. On Friday, I return to Domavex's YouTube channel for Finest Fridays, where we'll be talking about the December DC Finest books. So join me on Domavex on Friday morning, I think at 10 o'clock, and we'll see you there. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you later.